Somewhere in a nondescript building with no windows, thousands of blinking lights are quietly making someone very, very rich. No sign out front, no storefront, just humming metal boxes, cold air, and enough cabling to wrap around a small country. Welcome to the server room, the least glamorous, most profitable real estate on the planet. Today we're asking a simple question with a wildly complicated answer. What does it actually take to buy, build, or run one of these things? Spoiler: it is not just buy some computers and plug them in. It's power contracts, cooling physics, uptime insurance, and a business model most people never think about. Let's open the door. First, let's kill a myth. A server room is not just a room full of servers. It's a life support system for the internet itself. Every website you visit, every cloud file you save, every AI chatbot you talk to, it's all sitting on a rack somewhere, in a room like this. These rooms range from a closet in an office building to hyperscale campuses the size of 40 football fields. The small ones are called server rooms or micro data centers. The massive ones are called hyperscale data centers, and they belong to companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. In between, there's a whole industry of co-location providers, renting out rack space to businesses that don't want to build their own. So when someone says buy a server room, they could mean three very different businesses: buying an existing small facility, building one from scratch, or buying shares in the co-location giants that already dominate the market. Let's start with the dream: buying a small existing data center. On paper, it sounds simple. Find a building, find some tenants who need server space, collect rent on the racks. In reality, you're not really buying real estate, you're buying an obligation to keep the power on, no matter what, every single second, forever. Because in this business, downtime isn't just annoying, it's contractually catastrophic. Most data center contracts promise something called uptime, and it's measured in nines. 99.9% uptime sounds impressive, until you realize that's still almost 9 hours of downtime a year. The best facilities promise 99.99% uptime, or about 5 minutes of downtime annually. Miss that target, and you're not just apologizing, you're paying penalties written into legally binding service level agreements. This is why data centers are rated using something called the tier system, from tier 1 to tier 4. Tier 4 facilities have fully redundant everything: double power feeds, double cooling systems, double generators, so that if anything fails, a backup instantly takes over. Building that kind of redundancy is stupidly expensive, which brings us to cost number 1: power infrastructure. A single rack of high-density servers can draw as much electricity as several homes combined. Multiply that by hundreds or thousands of racks, and suddenly you're not running a business, you're running a small power plant's worth of demand. This is why serious data center buyers don't just look at buildings, they look at proximity to substations and power grid capacity first. Some hyperscale operators are now signing direct deals with nuclear and renewable power plants just to guarantee enough electricity. If you can't secure stable, cheap power, the rest of your business plan doesn't matter. Cost number 2: cooling. Servers generate an absurd amount of heat, and heat is the enemy of every microchip inside that building. Let a server room get too hot, and you're not looking at a slowdown, you're looking at hardware failure and data loss. Traditional data centers use massive air conditioning systems called crack units, blasting cold air non-stop, 24 hours a day, all year. Newer, denser facilities are switching to liquid cooling, running coolant directly next to the chips for far more efficient heat transfer. Here's the kicker: cooling alone can eat up nearly 40% of a data center's entire electricity bill. That's why some companies build data centers in cold climates like Iceland or northern Sweden, letting nature do some of the cooling for free. Others build entire facilities underwater, like Microsoft's experimental subsea data center project, using the ocean itself as a giant heatsink. So before you even think about servers, you're already deep into engineering problems most business owners never face. Cost number 3: physical security and redundancy. These buildings often have zero windows, reinforced walls, biometric access control, and layered security checkpoints. Why so extreme? Because a data center outage can cripple thousands of client businesses simultaneously, making these buildings prime targets for both physical and cyber attacks. Add in backup diesel generators capable of running the entire facility for days, plus massive battery arrays for the seconds between a power outage and generator startup. Now multiply all of this by the fact that most of it needs to be duplicated, because redundancy is the entire point. Cost number 4: the servers themselves. Enterprise-grade servers aren't cheap consumer hardware. They're specialized machines built for constant, reliable, high-density operation. A single rack fully loaded with high-performance servers can easily cost more than a luxury car, and large facilities need thousands of these racks. And in the age of AI, the most in-demand servers are the ones packed with GPUs, the specialized chips used to train artificial intelligence models. These GPU-heavy racks draw so much power and generate so much heat that some new AI-focused data centers require completely custom cooling and electrical designs. This is part of why AI companies are scrambling to lock down data center capacity years in advance. Now let's talk about how this business actually makes money, because this is where it gets interesting. Most independent data center owners don't sell computing power directly. They rent physical space and connectivity. This model is called co-location, or colo for short. Businesses pay to place their own servers inside your secure, climate-controlled, power-redundant facility. You're not selling technology, you're selling reliability, security, and uptime as a service. Pricing is typically based on power consumption, measured in kilowatts, plus a base rent for rack space. The bigger the client's power draw, the more they pay, because power is the real bottleneck in this industry, not floor space. On top of that, many providers charge for network connectivity, offering direct, high-speed links to major internet exchanges and cloud providers. This is why the most valuable data centers aren't just big, they're strategically located near major fiber optic backbone routes. Being physically close to an internet exchange point can shave crucial milliseconds off data transfer times, and for financial trading firms, those milliseconds are worth millions. So location isn't just about land prices, it's about being plugged into the actual physical map of the internet. Now here's the plot twist that keeps small players up at night: the cloud. Companies like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure completely reshaped this industry over the last 15 years. Instead of businesses buying their own servers or renting colo space, they can simply rent virtual computing power by the hour from a hyperscaler. This crushed a huge chunk of demand for small and mid-sized data centers, because why manage physical hardware when you can rent capacity instantly, anywhere in the world? In response, many independent data centers pivoted to serving the hyperscalers themselves, leasing massive wholesale space directly to Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. This created an entirely new business model called wholesale colocation, where you're not serving hundreds of small clients, you're serving one enormous client that needs an entire building. It's less risky in some ways, since you have one reliable, deep-pocketed tenant, but it also means your fate is tied entirely to that single relationship. Meanwhile, the hyperscalers themselves have realized something crucial. Owning the infrastructure is more profitable than renting it. That's why Amazon, Google, and Microsoft now build the vast majority of their own data centers from the ground up, often in remote areas with cheap land and cheap power. They buy land near hydroelectric dams, wind farms, and even decommissioned power plants, sometimes negotiating private energy deals worth billions of dollars. This is also why small towns sometimes fight fiercely over whether to allow a new hyperscale data center, because these projects promise huge tax revenue, but also massive water and electricity consumption. A single large AI data center can use as much water for cooling as a small city, which has triggered real political battles over local resources. So where does that leave someone actually trying to buy into this industry today? Realistically, most retail investors aren't buying a physical data center. They're buying shares in publicly traded companies that own them, called data center REITs. These real estate investment trusts pull together massive data center portfolios and pay investors dividends from the rental income. It's essentially the closest thing to owning a slice of the internet's physical backbone, without needing billions of dollars in capital yourself. For entrepreneurs actually looking to build something smaller, the smart move right now is specialization, rather than competing directly with the giants. This means building edge data centers, small facilities placed closer to end users to reduce latency for things like gaming, streaming, or autonomous vehicles, or focusing on niche compliance needs like data centers built specifically to meet strict healthcare or government data regulations. The generic rent-me-some-rack space business model is increasingly being squeezed by the sheer scale of the hyperscalers. So here's the real answer to, so you want to buy a server room. You're not buying a building, you're buying into a power contract, a cooling system, a security operation, and an uptime promise, all wrapped into one property. It's part real estate, part utility company, part insurance policy, and part critical infrastructure. Done right, it's one of the most stable, recession-resistant businesses in the modern economy, because the world is never going to stop needing somewhere to store its data. Done wrong, it's an electricity bill so large it could bankrupt you before you rent out a single rack. And that, right there, is the real business hiding behind every blinking light in every windowless building you've ever driven past without a second thought.